All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Courageous Leaders podcast. Super excited to have this week's guest, James Balog, with us. Thanks for joining us, James.
Thanks, Cody. Good to be here.
So this is the Courageous Leaders Changing the World podcast. What's been an experience in your life where you've had to summon all the courage that you've ever had within you to be able to face off with something in your life? What's been that moment?
Oh, it was probably that one time that you helped me decide to shut down $1 million business because I wasn't happy. That one comes to mind really quickly whenever we talk about courage
Just
recently.
right
Yeah, that one time. You know that one well, don't you? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
What was it like facing off with that then? What was the journey?
You know, I saw a friend a couple of days ago, and that friend travels around the world coaching and mentoring the rich and famous, coaching and mentoring special forces. He's done some amazing things in his life, and he always has this filter where he runs everything through, does it serve the highest good? And one of the things we spoke about was the fact that you can't really gauge whether something serves the highest good until after it's happened. You can never gauge truth until after the fact. You can only gauge truth in retrospect, and then it changes. And so when I look back on that now, I think the most important part is that I have absolutely no doubt that it served the highest good to do it. But at the time, it literally took every cell in my body, every burned out emotional cell in my body to face in that direction and walk that line with full force. And it wasn't like a overnight thing, as you might remember. It was a good, solid 6-month process of shutting down because we had to deliver to clients. I had a team that I was paying, a business partner, all of the things. And I didn't want my decision to I didn't want my decision to burn down anyone else's life. So that was a really difficult thing to navigate, and coming to terms with the fact that it's like, by me making this decision, there's actually a ripple effect now because there's other people that rely on this. So the level of courage it took to face that was huge. It definitely took all the strength that I had. And then it took 18 months of recovering realistically and reflecting and healing and choosing how I would do it differently.
Yeah.
But I can definitely safely say that without mustering that courage and without doing what I did, I wouldn't be so certain in what I'm doing now and how I'm doing it now.
Love that. What are the lessons that you picked up from that then? What would you do differently?
What would I do differently? Gosh. The first thing that comes to mind for me, and this isn't for everyone, it's just slow down. And that is what I did differently.
Yeah.
As I just took a moment, because to be clear, I feel like there's no other way to get to the experience I'm at now except to go through that. I think every single entrepreneur that's serious about doing it has to go through the trial by fire.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a way of avoiding it. And I don't think I've met anyone who's avoided trial by fire.
Yeah.
Because if you can't make it through that, then quit and go back to work.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. You are going to get crushed if you can't make it through that. So going through that is absolutely imperative. And once you go through that, again, you have this gift of retrospect. Then you actually get to choose how you would do it differently.
Yeah.
And so one big thing that stands out for me is on the element of courage, have more of it. Because I see where a lot of decisions were made in avoidance rather than courage, because the stress gets huge, and the amount of decisions you've got to make as a business owner rises, especially when all of a sudden the business creates rapid success and all of a sudden you end up with a team, which is what happened to us. We were fortunate enough to make a couple of smart decisions in a time of opportunity and be the sort of first ones to nail a little gap in the market, you know, at least here in Southeast Queensland. And we scaled quickly, money, team, clients, and was like, I'm not prepared for this. So it was courageous, yes, to go all in and to, you know, to be willing to change the world and to create the business. But then, met with that is all the little avoidance decisions that we kind of make. So having the time to slow down helps me personally to gauge where I'm being avoidant and where I need to be more courageous.
Yeah.
So for me, slowing down has been one of the biggest lessons and how I would do it differently. And off the back of that, it's recognizing that a lot of the mentors and a lot of the people that helped me early on, of course, helped me in their way. You know, they gave me their tools for how they did it.
Yeah.
And again, at the beginning, there's no other way. That's what you have to do. You have to take other people's tools. You have to model success that's already been created. And then in that process, you start to figure out, okay, how do I want to do this? And so once again, by slowing down for me and reflecting in retrospect, I realized that a fast-paced business, go, full of willful energy, next, busy schedules, the way that most of my original mentors helped me do it, that the way that they've created tons of success is not the way that James creates success in business. You know, it just isn't for me. So that takes me to that question of what I would do differently once again, which was realize that I wouldn't do it like that. That for me, less is more. For me, you know, you and I have spoken about that amazing Special Forces line that I love. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah.
And for me, that rang home. You know, I remember watching this series, the Stan series, SEAL Team, and that's where I first heard that, you know, and that's their mantra, you know, Special Forces team, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And that for me was like, that's where I went wrong. You know, that's where I did it differently. That's where the mentors that originally taught me, they don't operate like that. They operate in the opposite and it works for them. But for me, slowing down is imperative. So now, you know, running the Ultimate Entrepreneur, which is the new business, it's birthed from the question of the ultimate entrepreneur. And it again, third answer to your question is like, you've got to decide, well, who am I as my own ultimate entrepreneur? What is the ultimate entrepreneur to me? Because it's totally subjective. You know, it's not until you find yourself in retrospect, it's not until you go through the trial by fire that you get to start doing it your way. And a lot of people try to start out like that. I mean, I did. The first year or so didn't work at all. Didn't make any money because I'm trying to do it my way. Hadn't been through the trial by fire first. You know, there's an ancient code here.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we see play out all the time. Like as soon as you recognize that people have been through that trial by fire, you have so much more of a respect for them as well. There was someone that I was talking to on Instagram this week because I recognized that they were getting a lot of hate on their thing. They'd basically gone viral in a negative way and just getting all this hate. And I'm like, well, fucking welcome to entrepreneurship. Congratulations for joining us. I'm like, great. And then they tell me, oh, and these are all the other things that are going on. And I'm like, welcome. Glad for you to join us. Now we can have this deep conversation about what business is really like because, you know, it's beautiful and shiny on the outside, the Instagram version of it. But when we get down to it, it's going to be the thing that's going to bring up all of your shit. It's going to bring up all of the things within inside you, all of the areas that you've been avoiding, you know, doing the internal work or just pushing it to the side or creating this compensation mechanism by creating this external success in business to avoid whatever the thing is with your relationship or with your relationship with money or a relationship with your parents. All of those things. Business is built in a way where those things can come up so that you can actually integrate them. I was talking to Roscoe the other day in messages. He's like, you know, what do you want to be known for? Because we have these back and forth messages all the time where we kind of give each other a little bit of a poke and stuff. And I'm like, well, you know, I love business and I love transformation and I'm going to talk all about business for periods. I'm going to talk all about transformation. But when it comes back down to it, it is always the intersection between those two things. It is business being that force for growth so that you can actually create that deeper sense of aliveness in yourself so that you're actually lit up by a business, which is great, but you kind of need to go through the trial by fire first, right?
Yeah, you do. You need to identify the knife's edge, and that's the thing. Like, because even when you do identify it, you're still always on a knife's edge with business, because it's like, one step to the left is oh crap, there's the fire again. Like the fire's burning around you at all times. You just got to stay on that knife's edge, on that thin little path that just keeps you above the flames. And it's fun because you have to get used to the adrenaline of balancing. It's a bit like a tightrope in a way. There's flames either side, and it's this like addiction to that. Will I stay on the tightrope? And if you don't actually enjoy that, then you're going to have a big problem. A big problem. And that's why I think cultivating courage is so important. Like, you just don't realize how crucial the conscious cultivation of courage in business really is. Because mentors always say, and many of my mentors have always said, like, if you're not having hard conversations, then you're not successful in business.
Yeah.
And that the harder your conversations in business are, the more successful that you are. Show me the level of hard conversation and I'll show you the level you're playing at. And it's so true. And you've got to cultivate new levels of courage the entire time, because the courage you had last year, it's not going to serve you next year or the year after. It just continues to grow. So you've got to enjoy it. You have to. There's no other way of doing it but to enjoy the inherent stress, which I think comes with choosing which of those inherent stresses you're willing to face, and also getting good at removing all of the other crap and all of the other stressors that are overloading you. Because if you're overloaded, you're not going to enjoy the tightrope.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the pieces of that for your journey as well is, many people can create that huge success by just going in, getting it done at the cost of their body. What's been your journey with that?
I in retrospect, once again, one of the cool metaphors that I utilize for this is, most people have no idea that they're unconsciously mortgaging the energy they're utilizing for success. They're mortgaging it from their health. They're mortgaging it from their relationships. They're mortgaging it from their fulfillment. They're mortgaging it from their business partner, from their dog. And every time you take out a mortgage, there is not only a repayment off the principal, there is interest. And the further you go, the more energetic debt you create along the way, the more you lean into just constantly debt to get ahead, the more that interest rate starts to kill you. And so for me, one thing I didn't realize at the time was how much I was mortgaging energy from my health. I also didn't realize that my body was telling me the answers the whole freaking time. Do we swear on this podcast?
Yes, you can. You can swear, go for it.
Thank God. And so I was just not only borrowing, like mortgaging energy from my body, which prior to getting into business, I was in the best shape of my life. Not only was I mortgaging energy, but my body was trying to tell me the whole time, where I was out of alignment, where I was making avoidant decisions rather than courageous decisions, where I was taking on too much, and so on and so forth. And, 3 years later, as we know, when I made that decision, the shutting down of the business was like, I've got to pay this debt back now, And not just that, it wasn't the health debt that I'd racked up. It was the relationship debt that I'd racked up. With my business partner, with my partner at the time, with my family, with my friends. Like, I had no idea how much the first 3 years of the journey was going to be borrowing from those areas of life. And I totally missed the fact that every debt must be repaid with interest.
Yep.
And the longer you don't pay debt, the more the interest you've got to pay rises. So you're not even paying the principal off until you've paid off enough interest, man. And I think that analogy is one of my favorite analogies. And so my body copped it. I burned out hard. And I experienced what was post-traumatic stress from it as well, meaning that the second time around, like when I started to face the new business, I literally couldn't make the same decisions. physically could not do business the same way. Like I experienced it to the absolute extreme where even if I wanted to do it the way that I did it for the last 3 years, my body point blank would put me on my ass and I couldn't. And I was like, shit, that's one way of initiating myself into more authenticity and more alignment in my life. Wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, it plays out for so many people. They don't recognize that there's going to be a cost to everything. There's the fast way to be able to create growth is to slow down. And it's about how we actually integrate all of those things within us, because then that's the cost that we pay. The cost of evolving ourselves means that we don't pay the external costs in our relationships. If we're unwilling to face ourselves, if we're unwilling to evolve within ourselves, then there must be an external cost to relationships, to health, to money, whatever it is, because the whole mechanism of that is based on avoidance. It's trying to avoid something internally. And the more that we can actually start to cultivate that and recognize where we're using that law of compensation for us rather than against us, everything's opens up for us. And you're a testament to that in terms of how much work that you've done on your health and how you've actually created that almost separation from, the insular, incestual kind of community that has kind of developed on the Gold Coast. You created this separation to be able to actually take that time for integration, which is one thing that I see so many people kind of miss. It's like, People are told day in, day out, if you don't have a coach, you're out of integrity as a coach. And it's like, well, there's seasons to have a coach.
Absolutely.
If you've never had a coach, yes, you're out of integrity. But there's also seasons to be able to return to yourself, because otherwise you don't know who you are, what you're here for. You just take on everyone else's values. You're in the big rooms where they're like, it's all about legacy. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to create legacy. And then that's not your value. It's like your value is family. It's like, okay, well, let's actually create alignment with those. And with that, I'd love to hear more on that importance of that integration kind of phase of kind of stepping out of it, because it's not good for selling people into things, but it's also required for people's growth.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, look, I think I love the piece you just spoke about, understanding that sometimes having a coach for business is not a every day, every month for the rest of your life thing. Everything happens in seasons, because sometimes the biggest needle mover is going to be your relationship with your family, your relationship with your partner, your health. And because it's not a question of if, it's a question of when those things become the biggest needle mover for your growth in the short term, you need the time and space to go get your coaching and go get your mentorship in those areas. So it's not that you're not coaching or mentoring, you're just shifting the focus to the different needle movers. And so why the space and the integration space was so crucial is because the biggest thing that you need to cultivate courage for, if you really want to be hyper successful, is the recognition that everything's your fault. And out of everything, that was the hardest part of the journey, was the recognition that all my problems and everyone else's behavior around me, I'm only responsible for mine. It's all my fault. I'm the leader. And I know that that's somewhat counterintuitive to some self-development stuff that people say about, I've got to be like good to myself and I've got to be positive and I've got to reframe it. Nah, man. At some point, you got to realize it's all your fault. You're the one in control of your reality, and everyone else is in control of their own. And you might not be able to take responsibility for their shit, but if you're a leader, if you're a trailblazer, if you're the owner of the business, you're the one pushing the business, you're the trailblazer, it's all your fault, all of it. And at first, when you confront that, it is horrible. It is scary. It is just shit. And then you start to realize, once you start to face it and you have great mentors like you who, help guide you through it and help you cultivate more courage to face it, and you start to do the healings, you start to realize that everything being your fault is one of the greatest doors to freedom that you'll ever experience. Because you start to truly realize that you really are the conductor of your reality. Perhaps not the controller, but the conductor, absolutely. The symphony will play in whatever direction you conduct it to play. And when you realize that, you go, wow, well, actually, that's pretty damn cool if everything's my fault. It takes a bit of time to get there. There's a lot of healing and there's a lot of shit, and it never stops. I subscribe now to a mindset of healing hygiene, where I don't look at healing like something you're going to do. I look at healing like brushing my teeth, right? Like if I don't want to go to the dentist and get a root canal, get a tooth pulled, I'm going to brush my teeth for a little bit in the morning and a little bit at night, every single night. I'm going to floss, and I'm just going to do a little bit every day. And if I do a little bit every day, then my dental health's going to be great. And I'm not going to need to get as many teeth pulled, which is not going to cause me a shit ton of pain, right? So I look at healing the same way. Like you've got to create a lifestyle of healing hygiene where you're doing a little bit every day, and that's what I sort of subscribe to now. And that helps to continue to go to deeper layers of self and deeper layers of responsibility for being the conductor of this reality. And it helps me enjoy the process of all of the feelings. It's like to be present to all of the feelings and find pleasure in the good, the bad, the ugly, and the otherwise is to be in the full experience of your life.
Mm.
And I always find it funny when people talk about presence and how most practices of presence in the modern society, in the new bubble is all about being present with like the moment right now and thinking about gratitude or compassion or love. When presence is kind of facilitated or guided, it's typically facilitated and guided with the presupposition that you're loved, that you're grateful for everything. It's guided so people go into that feeling, and that's great. But you're only learning presence with what you want to feel, not what you get to feel. And the true practice of presence is to practice being present with all of the feelings, the full spectrum. And if you can't be present with the deepest, darkest, most horrible shit, then you're not actually practicing presence. And that, I think, is very hard to do at first, but damn does it lead to freedom of the mind, freedom of choice, authenticity, all the great things. And that's been a big part of the journey. Ever since I stepped in, I was doing a training the other day on storytelling, defining moment stories to a speaker training, Nat Patterson's speaker training that you were at. And I told all of her students that I was the idiot guinea pig that went through holographics one-on-one with you before you turned it into the modality. Yeah, I was the idiot. I was the guinea pig. I was that guy. Yep, that was me. Typical. But it's like when we journeyed all of that together years ago, it really helped to prepare me and to train me to be present with all of those feelings. To stop creating a life of trying to avoid the feelings I didn't want and only attract the feelings I did, but realize that I get to experience the whole experience and there's pleasure in all of it. And now I'm starting to experience each day, little bit by little bit, more and more of an experience of feeling unfuckwithable, which is pretty cool. It's good, and it's very handy in business as well, might I add.
Yeah. Business is that thing where, it's going to test how present you're going to be. It's going to be the thing where it's like, even in that room, like literally we're about to start the event and then Nat gets like a voice message where like shit's falling apart. It's like literally second we've completed like the opening of the team part of the event, the people are about to walk in the room and shit's falling apart. And I'm just like watching her and I'm just like, she's fucking got this. Like, it's so good to be able to see people. It's just like, well, the shit comes up and it washes over you. When it washes over you, you just keep going. Most people get splashed in the face and they're just like, shit's falling apart, we're under this, losing their shit. But when you just have it wash over you because you're just so present to what is actually here in that moment, you actually just take it on and it just goes over you. And then you just keep powering through. And that only can come from that deeper sense of presence, that being with whatever is coming up. Yes, presence can have calmness, peace, beauty, bliss, joy, all of those things. And if it's only that, then it's not presence, it's disassociation or spiritually bypassing. And everyone knows how much I love spiritually bypassing, all of you fuckers. So I'm with you on all of that. Most people use so much of the tools that they learn to spiritually bypass. And you put it perfectly before of, most people when they get into the work, it's like, I'm going to go clean up all my shit. They're doing all the cleaning up work and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm having this epiphany. I've done the medicine journey. Now I'm waking up, but they don't do the growing up work of actually taking responsibility in life. Or they just disassociate saying, it's my fault. But then I don't actually do anything about it. It's like, great. It's my fault. Great. Now I go into a shame spiral. It's like, yeah, it's your fault and you're still the fucking conductor. You're still the creator. So you want to discreate that and create something else rather than just be a whiny little bitch. I'm just going to get into a real rant now. A whiny little bitch around fucking that being how it is. You can justify your bullshit if you really want and I will pretend to listen sometimes. But most of the time I'm just going to be like, cool story, bro. Because that's costing you everything. Like it's costing you in your relationships, it's costing you financially, it's costing you in every area of your life.
Yeah.
So the more that you can be with what is actually alive in you in that moment, the more that things open up for you. Because in that avoidance of holding it at arm's length, that's what creates all of your suffering in life. That's like, Taoism is just like, how do you let go of all attachments? It's like, well, yeah, that's part of it. And you got to look at the attachments to all of the positive things and the negative things because there's an attachment of like keeping the negative things away, but pulling in the good things. But all that's doing is just creating more of this actually tiring you out of trying to keep the things that you're avoiding away from you. That actually comes towards you more. That actually pushes that away from it more when you're trying to pull it in. It's this dynamic where it perpetuates suffering. So the more that we can return to that deeper level of presence, the more that it like truly opens up for us.
One of my favorite quotes from Atomic Habits has always been the line, what you resist persists. And that's the piece. So if you're resisting the shadow side of yourself, if you're resisting the darkness, if you're resisting all the other emotions, they're literally going to persist. And year after year, they'll get worse. And you either have to deal with them or you disassociate, as you said. So you got to learn to love them. You got to learn to journey them. And it wasn't until, I took myself to the depths of that journey and really, learned to love it, that I also became 10 times better at mentoring and helping others because I stopped needing to save people. I stopped being okay with other people's pain for once. And in our industry, as a coach and as a mentor, as a trainer, there's a fine line between saving people and doing what serves the highest good for that person. And sometimes that person's pain, it was for me, truly is the doorway to the next version of themselves, the next massive reality. And if we as the mentor, and this is the same whether this isn't like mentor is just a surrogate word for what we do professionally, but this is like in your relationships with your partner, with your kids, with your friends, with your family, with your clients. In this case, it's all the same. Archetypal example. Your ability to be able to embrace your own pain will allow you to deal with other people's pain in a way more sustainable, way more impactful way. And it's a bit sadistic because there is a level of finding a little bit of pleasure in it as well. And it's been a really interesting week with a lot of people around me going through big upgrades, and I've been in a really great space. And I've been, in the fortunate position to be able to be the supporter to the people that I care about whilst they go through that. And at the same time, I also hold this little bit of pleasure for the pain they're going through, because I know so deeply within myself that pain is leading them to a deeper level of purpose. More importantly, a deeper level of purposefulness, and I used to be so much more triggered by other people's pain, and I used to need to fix things, and I'm sure as a husband, right? When you're in a relationship, as a man, you always want to fix shit for your partner, and I was definitely that guy, and I didn't even know it, but the willingness to be able to sit in pain, in discomfort, in the shadows, the remembrance that I'm not perfect, I never will be, it's all a part of the human experience, definitely helps to be able to sit with the pain and with other people's pain. And with our clients, we know that sometimes they just haven't hit that threshold yet. You know, you can give someone the best strategy in the world, you can give them all the advice, and they still don't do anything with it. And that's usually an example that, well, that person hasn't hit their pain threshold yet. And their experience is rooted in that pain, and they've got to experience it. And so it's not a game of how do we pull them out of the pain, it's how do we push them in there faster, you know, and we get to play that game professionally as coaches and mentors. Isn't that funny how like people pay us to push them into pain faster and they don't really know it when they pay us? Yeah. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, it's this interesting thing that plays out, right? As soon as we become a coach, we typically do it from a place where, you know, we've been wounded in some area of our life, so we want to help people through that. We don't want other people to experience what we experienced, which ironically then takes away their capacity for their strength. It's like, let's take away their struggle, but then we take away their strength. And then we're like, we start to create this entire identity around who we are of, I'm going to be the person that is going to make sure no one ever goes through injustice ever again. And it's like, okay, cool. You're going to take away their strength, are you? Congratulations. That's part of the journey. And the more that we can actually do exactly what you're saying, which is, you know, how can we just be present with people? How can we be with them even when we can see all of their pain, all of their suffering? Because we can zoom out so we can actually start to see the bigger picture of what's playing out that they can't see right now because they're in the pain, the emotion of it all. But we just zoom out and we're just like, people are like, you're so sadistic. You have a smile on your face when you're doing all of these things and I'm in all this suffering. And I'm like, that's because I see the bigger picture. I see exactly what that's going to create for you in your life in 3, 6, 12, 18 months. I see that. That's why I'm smiling, because I can see what it's going to create for you in your life. Yes, it's painful. Yes, there's suffering in it. Yes, it hurts right now. And I know exactly what that'll create long term. I know who you're going to become from that place. That's why people are like, you're sadistic. You're definitely a sociopath. You're definitely all of these things. It's funny when, you know, a psychologist comes into your room and they're like, you're definitely a sociopath. And I'm like, yes, well, I'm still getting your results. So you're welcome.
I haven't had that yet. I'm missing out.
Yeah, you're missing out.
My psychologist thinks I'm the best client ever. He says to me, number one, he says, why do you come here? You don't have any problems? No, and then he says, I just love our sessions because you just want to change. Like you want to do the work. He's like, it's so refreshing. And I'm like, wow, that's what it's like out there in the real world. People don't actually want to change.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, people who are more proactive always get better results. It's like if someone's getting coaching from the place of enhancing what they're already doing, they get so much more results than someone coming in to be fixed or to be saved. Yeah. The amount of people like in the personal development industry that are just like, I'm just going to throw money at the thing because I want to be saved. I want to be fixed. I don't want to actually go through this. Like it plays out all the time. And if your place where you're coming from internally is at a place of enhancing what you're already doing, it's not broken, it's just looking to enhance it, then you actually move so much faster. You remove all the friction that is actually slowing you down. And that's what I see when so many people come to me and they've already got a coach as an example. It's like, I've already got a coach in this, you know, why would I get another one? It's like, well, you know, do you want to move faster? Do you want to remove more friction? By all means, I don't want to have, you know, 3 different coaches talking about the exact same thing in terms of your messaging. It's like one's going to have the priority. I remember when a client came to me, she's like, oh, I'm working with this coach over here. You know, why should I do this as well? I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't. And we can look at, you know, what are you getting from this person? What would you get from me? Is there crossover? Is there enough non-crossover that it makes sense to do both? Because, you know, you can have your cake and eat it too. Most people want to justify, oh, I've done all of this work on myself, so I don't need to do any more. Oh, I've already got one coach, so why would I get another one? It's like, well, how fast do you want to move? Yeah. And this is a high level conversation because typically what happens is if you don't have the capacity and you're struggling to eat and you're not paying your current payment plans, then don't get another coach. I'm going to say it again. Don't get another coach.
But who will save me?
Yeah, but who will save you? And there's a group of people that are playing the complacency game as well. Yeah. You know, they've invested in this. Oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And it's like, congratulations. Are you where you want to be? Like, no. Well, do you want to go there fast and, you know, get support? Or do you want to go slow and do trial and error? You get to choose. How fast do you want to go? Mm-hmm. And the people that are at a higher level, they're already kicking goals. They typically move faster by having more people. The difference is it's not having too many cooks in a kitchen. It's having a commercial kitchen that you're pumping out more things.
Exactly.
It's like you're pumping out more things. Then you can have more. But if you're just a one-person band, if you're the only person in your business, then, having 38,000 different coaches, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, it's like having all the cooks stirring the same pot. It's just not necessary.
It's one pot that doesn't even get put out to the people. It's like, we're just going to keep stirring this. No, we're not putting it out there into the world where people can pay us money. Just keep stirring. Just stirring. We're stirring the pot now. Yeah.
I love it. It's interesting back to the conversation of, what you were mentioning before about the importance of going through this like shadow self, going through the pain, going through that, if I can return back to that for a moment and
take us back into the pain. Let's feel it all.
Yeah, just really like make it known that you truly do find purpose in that pain, and when I look at what I'm doing now in the Ultimate Entrepreneur, yes, we do, sales and leadership training on the front end as the deliverable. But my whole position in the business as the mentor, alongside my business partner, Tyler, he's the strategist, I'm the mentor. And my whole position in our business is to ensure that each and every one of our clients are maintaining quality relationships, quality distribution of their time, that they're filling themselves each day, meaning they know what they love to do that lights them up, that puts a smile on their face. That they making the time to heal relationships with friends, to heal relationships with family, that they're looking after their health. Like, that's actually my big focus. And had I not gone through what I went through to realize what business owners put on the line for their success, I wouldn't have fully, truly committed to the realization that that's what I care about most for my clients. I love them making money. I love them becoming successful, growing businesses, doing amazing things. But what I care most about is that they have the opportunity through that success to have great relationships with their loved ones, that they have a healthy body, and that they're out there having fun. Like, that's actually what I care about most. And once you go through that pain and you have that realization so clearly, and you set those values on the front end of everything you say and everything you do, in the way that you do lead gen, in the way that you get clients, you just start to get the most amazing clients consistently, because those clients are buying those values, and the success is something they get to do, And that's been a huge change here in the business. I remember looking around at my old business, and it was one of the things, and looking at all the clients and just having this realization saying, I like these people, but they're nothing like me, and it's a good business, and it's making money, and I like these people, but I'm not absolutely lit up by it. It's not me. Like, someone else is better equipped for these people, right? I'm better off giving that opportunity to somebody else. And now, with what we do now, I can, without a shadow of a doubt, say that I am like the best person for these people when they walk into our room, when they walk into our life, to help them to create success and prioritize quality relationships, quality distribution of time, and a healthy, happy body with great hobbies that are fun. Like, I know I can do that because I did it, because I had the courage to shut the old business down and then challenge myself to create a multi-six-figure coaching business and only work 10 hours a week, and for 18 months concentrate on the quality of my relationship with my beautiful partner, Hillary, and our dog, Ollie, the fun that was missing in my life, the specific fun, like the stuff that lights me up, which is jumping in my boat, going out to islands that have no other people around there, snorkeling, fishing, enjoying the sunshine. I need that in my life, right? And making sure my body is healthy. that I don't wake up every day feeling like crap, that I can sustain myself, that I'm not getting sick every single month. Like, I want a healthy body because I want to stay young. And so I did it, and I allowed the business for a period of time to come second to that. And Parkinson's law, right? Work will expand and contract with the space that you give it. So lo and behold, I still hit my target of multi-six figures in 10 hours a week, but I got to do all those other things and I got to pay those debts back, right? And as I paid those debts back, and now I'm in the green. I'm in the green with my health. I'm in the green with my relationship. I'm in the green with my hobbies. They probably need a little bit. I haven't had an opportunity. The last few months have been pretty busy. I've got to give them a little bit more, but I'm in the green, and meanwhile, the success of the business every single month is growing more and more and more. And it's on the verge of this new business. It's on the verge of its first exponential spike, which is really exciting to be able to do it that way. So not only did I prove it to myself that it was possible, like the clients that come in now, that's what they want. Yeah, they want success, but what they want more than anything is a beautiful relationship and a healthy body and a fun life. And what happens when they walk into a room with me is I make that possible. And that's just the greatest gift that you can give to someone, right? It's just seeing that someone else has walked the path. It's possible. From there, the universe just does its thing, man.
Love it. Yeah. One thing that I recognize for people is, they have those seasons in life. Sometimes it's a season of shifting in business. And what most people do is they fight the area of life that they're being initiated in. They're like, no, I want to be initiated in business right now. It's like, no, you're in a season of being initiated in family or in relationship or in health. They're like, no, I'm in my business season. It's like, no. The season that you're initiated in is going to have impact in terms of how you show up in business. But whatever's coming up for you in that moment is the thing that's going to create growth in every area of your life. There's a season where you're initiating people because you've already been initiated. There's a season where you're being initiated. Like where you're being initiated is opening up every area of your life. And the more that you try and go, no, but it's about business, the more that you avoid it, which actually perpetuates.
Yep.
And this is one of the things that, the most successful clients that I have ever worked with, you included, it's those people that they recognize, okay, we've been talking about business, but this is where things are coming up. Now it's time to talk about family. Now it's time to talk about the relationship. Yep. Now it's time to talk about all of those things because inherently that's where it's going to open up everything else. The energy is going to expand. My coach says to me, he's like, the fastest way for someone to grow a business is to end a relationship. And it's like, that's not politically correct. And that then creates a one-dimensional life. I mean, the level of fulfillment that you have from that success is dramatically diminished, meaning you don't actually receive it. Although you get the external success, you don't receive it. So you got to choose the game that you play. And when you use that relationship as the initiation for it and you continue to deepen that, then that opens everything up in business. Then people just start to come in because your energy is entirely different, because you're no longer creating these subtle projections onto everyone else, onto your clients, because you're not getting the reflection from your partner. The funny thing happens, if you're not getting it from where it's first showing up, it starts showing up in everywhere else. It starts showing up in your partner and your clients and all of these different things. And then in prospects, and you're like, Jesus, what's going on with this? I keep seeing the same people. It's like, well, yeah, that's because you haven't created the next level of integration in yourself. This next thing that's been scheduled to be loved is showing up in you, but you're resisting it over here. And then you resist it here and it keeps showing up because you're not loving it in yourself.
We had a good laugh with our group last week because we kind of, we had an example of this where it was like, the problem is that most business owners being the CEO in their business, and then they go back into their relationship at home and they try to be the CEO in their relationship, and it doesn't really work, does it? However,
I've tried.
Me too. When you actually realize like, there's something in the way that I do relationships that's unsustainable here, and you really truly focus on that, you can take that tool into your business and that works. Like when you actually work on it in the part of your life that you care about most. You work on your relationships in your relationship. You face that, which is much harder than facing it in your business, right? But you face that and you do it. Those tools automatically transfer over to business and you end up flourishing. But you can't create that change in your business and bring it into your relationship. It just doesn't work that way. You know, so you have to be willing to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's that, like, the reason why it plays out like that is like the level of vulnerability. When it's our business, we're kind of disassociated from it. We're like, oh, it's our business. But when it's in our intimate relationship, then it's like, oh, there's a deeper sense of vulnerability in that. So I remember when we had one of our biggest growth phases, it was probably the time where I was working the most on my sexuality. It's like I was working with a coach one-on-one to be able to clear out all of the sexual shit that, you know, occurred throughout my entire life. And that was when I created the most growth, because I was facing off with myself. I was facing off with the deepest levels of vulnerability to be able to open up all of these areas. That opened up my relationship, that opened up financially, that opened up all of these different things. But it was also like the most vulnerable experience, right? So the more that we can actually recognize that, it's kind of safe and disassociated when we do it in business. There are a lot of other things that if we can start to pull those threads, that it just opens up everything, because it's more vulnerable and easy to say that it's, you know, bigger growth, but 10 times harder to actually face in that as well. Like, vulnerability is the thing that we yearn for the most, and it's the thing that we're most terrified of at the same time.
100%. Yeah. I love that. I love this conversation. You know, the needle mover in your business is rarely in your business. So it's such an important thing. Again, last week we're running a training and my business partner, Tyler, asked the question to everyone, if there's one thing I could give you right now in your business, what question, like, would you ask me? Or what would that be? And there were people who was going around the room and people were like, what's like, they were asking their different questions about their business. And we came to one of our rockstar clients, actually, who's killing it. And he said, well, my question is, what's the one thing you think I can do in my business? What's the one thing you think I can improve right now that will help me most in the business that I'm not seeing? And he said, your relationship with your son. And he was like, oh shit. You know, like everyone else is getting business answers, and for him, your relationship with your son. And he was like, oh, fuck. And you could see that in that moment, it knocked him for six. And that's when you know that that's going to be a needle mover. Like if receiving feedback like that actually has like a visceral like effect on your body, it's probably a great indication that that is your big blockage right now, that that's your area of vulnerability, that if you lean into it most and you cultivate that most, it's going to unlock something completely different in your business. And and that was, you know, met with many different epiphanies. And I love those moments. And, you know, and it's so funny. And it's just so common that often the biggest needle mover in your business isn't actually in your business.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. I think that's kind of the perfect thing to start to wrap up on today. What's being someone who's not on social media, how do people find out more about you?
This is a big dilemma, isn't it? Like, one of my big epiphanies when I shut down the old business and got the new business was that none of my best ever clients ever came from socials. So I made this wild decision to do the opposite of what everyone else does in this modern day and just don't have any social media influence on my business whatsoever. Business skyrocketed the moment that I chose to do that. But then now I've kind of become the no social media guy, which is funny because everyone wants to work out like how to do that, because apparently a lot of people like me get very drained from doing it and they're not natural at it and so on and so forth. But it makes it really difficult to answer these questions. Where do you find me? And ironically, the business itself has an Instagram now, which is UE Training or UE Training _. Sorry. So U, the letter U, E Training _. That's the business Instagram where you'll find me and my business partner, Tyler. You won't find me on there, but you'll find lots of cool content on there. And we also have a website, the digital footprint on the website, which is uetraining.com.au. So if you want to find out about me, that's the best place to go. And from there, if you can find your way there, then you can probably find your way to me.
Yeah. Just a couple little breadcrumbs to follow. That's all you need.
Little breadcrumbs. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And that social media has now gone to the team, and so it's growing, and there'll be great content, particularly by the time you're listening to this podcast as well. So you can find your way there. You'll certainly find your way to follow the breadcrumbs, as Cody said.
Just need a couple of little ones. That's all that people need, you know.
Yeah.
It's and it's one of the things that I love about you most is you just follow that inspiration. It's like no social media. It's like, all right, let's go down that path. Let's pave that new pathway to be able to go, you know, we don't necessarily need it. There's a time and a place to step out of that and create an entire business around that. And, you know, having someone who's actually done it is great to be able to get support from in that, to be able to, you know, go down that pathway. And there is so many times where I've seen you just step into that new pathway of going, you know, they're doing these things over here, and this is what feels aligned for me. And you just go down that pathway, and it's amazing to be able to see you unendingly step into that. And to kind of wrap up, I would love to hear what you would, if people were struggling with something that they kind of have an inkling that is out of alignment for them, but they haven't stepped fully into creating the change, what would you say to them?
Such a great question. Listen to your body. Genuinely, the answers are in your body. If it's too hard or too complicated, if it feels too hard or too complicated, it probably is. Like, the answer's always so much simpler, and you've already got the answer. Stop searching for a new one. Listen to the one that's there, the one that you've had the whole time. You know, the answer's in the body. I think if I'd listened to that more often, I'd be a lot more successful than I am. I'm definitely happy with the success that I've created, but it's that, you know, that retrospect thing. But the answer is always in the body. And, you know, second to that, if you're unsure, just get a bloody mentor. Like and that doesn't necessarily mean you need to pay for a mentor, by the way. Like, mentors come in all different shapes and forms, right? Just someone that you think is smarter than you, that pairs with a level of trust and willingness to receive, and ask them. Like, a mentor of mine, in fact, like, one of the best questions I ever learned from a first mentor that I didn't pay was asking the question, what do I know that I'm pretending not to know? First answer is the right one. The answer you ask your mentor, the question you ask your mentor is the same one. What do I know I'm pretending not to know? They'll tell you, or they'll help you figure out the answer. Unless it's you, they won't tell you the answer. I'm me too. I'll just ask you another question.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the perfect thing to wrap up on. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. We'll see you next time.